across the bow, if you will. But I want to start with just a little bit of history. So, as you probably all know, FCCGE has an environmental ministry team. It's been in action since 2007. Since that time, of course, it's taken on a wide variety of projects and accomplished very many things. I just want to kind of highlight what some of those are today, courtesy especially thanks to Alice and to Catherine, who provided some history for you about some of the things we've accomplished. We've got pollinator gardens, we've flow water needs. The 75% was a bit of a made-up number. I don't know, that's not exactly accurate, but I know we've done a lot of them, and I want to say most of them, right? Or at least, something. Does anyone have Tom, do you have a clear sense of that?
Andy said it was more than that.
Might even be more than that. Okay, good. I know it's a project we finished, started and didn't quite finish, but we made a lot of progress on it. Established recycling practices for the church, for aluminum and paper and glass. Installed rain barrels for use by the garden ministry. I don't think those are currently there anymore, but something to think about as we're going ahead. The Eagle Scouts to build a compost bin. I don't think that's there anymore either. But again, something I'd love to reinstitute. Raised funds for the installation of a bike rack to encourage folks to walk or bike to church. Installed an industrial dishwasher. We've got a whole sort of team of dishwashing folks that have been diligently cleaning up after our big events. Having used a lot of disposable stuff. Partnered with Faith in Place, local Chicago nonprofit, to do various projects, and most notably, two down here hosted the Winter Farmers Markets right here in Pilgrim Hall. Did a couple of those to support local farmers and produce providers. Partnered with the Garden Works Project to provide. It's one of our mission partners. We help to provide locally grown produce to hungry families, and that's going to be really the focus of Nancy's part of this presentation. Because she's on the board at Garden Works, and she's going to share a little more about that. Hosted a wide variety of hikes for the congregation to enjoy. We've got one today at 2 o'clock. I'm not free, but should be a good time. And the one I'm in some ways most proud of, partnered with Nexamp to provide 100% of the church's electricity via a solar farm, which is really a great step in the right direction. These are just some pictures of things that we've done over the years: the bike rack, shout-outs in worship, the rain barrels, compost bin. Tom Rausch here provided me with some of these just to show and feel free to jump in, Tom, if you want to say anything about this, but looks like our gas usage is trending mostly in a good direction. And electricity usage is definitely trending in a good direction.
That's impressive. That's really impressive. That's mostly the LEDs, the pandemic, but we're out of the pandemic now.
It's still kind of level, yeah.
That's impressive.
So we've got a good foundation to work off of, thanks in no small part to the good work that many of you have done over the last several years, decade or so, more important than that, church. Now, of course, the pandemic hit, and like just about everything else that wasn't in some way retooled, everything kind of shut down. And, some of what the EMT had been working on and whatnot, and those efforts sort of ground to a little bit of a halt. So our efforts now, and what we really want to talk about today, is kind of a rebranding and a relaunching of the environmental ministry team as the Green Team, which is just a pretty simple name that everyone should know what that means. And I want to talk about some things we've been working on, some things we want to be doing in the next several months. And also, I just want to say that the things we're talking about today are not comprehensive. The opportunity here is to really reconstitute this team and continue imagining things we might be doing and things we might be working on. But in large part, I want to talk about an initiative that we're starting as a kind of effort to get things off the ground and get people jazzed and excited and do some good work. what we're calling the Eden Project. And what this is, essentially, is a plan. I wanted to start a community garden to help teach people how to grow their own food, how to be able to provide extra produce for local food pantries and folks in need. But we don't really necessarily have the patience.
No location.
Oh, location.
Space.
The space. We don't really have the ideal space for a community garden. So, our good folks here who know way more about gardening than I do, which I know like nothing about gardening, okay?
Oh, later you will.
That's right. And they sort of gently broke my heart and said, I don't think we can have a community garden here. But we kept thinking about it and said, well, what if we got folks to do a raised bed vegetable garden on their own property, in their own backyard, which I know there are many people in the congregation that are already pretty avid gardeners and doing some of this already. But the hope would be I'm kind of setting a modest goal initially of trying to get 30 households to commit to planting one of these gardens and donating some percentage of the produce to folks who need it. And I'm not, we could talk about this as of this point, I'm not dead set on saying it's got to be a certain percentage, but I think whatever percentage folks want to give, anywhere from 10% to 100%, we're going to ask them to measure it so that we can kind of keep track of what we're doing as a congregation. And there's an app, which I keep getting the name wrong.
Fresh Food Connect.
Thank you. I keep thinking it's Fresh, was it Fresh or something? Which is actually like one of those food delivery services. But Fresh Food Connect. Fresh Food Connect. It's an app that links you up with local food pantries and things wherever they are in need of produce. So folks can kind of grow their own stuff, bring their own stuff. And I think this project is going to accomplish several goals that I'm really excited about. Provide more nutritious sustenance for the hungry in our community. Teach participants the skills to grow their own food, which I just think is a really fantastic thing and increasingly important skill in our world, and one, again, that I don't have. Although, I will say, fortuitously, by God's grace or whatever, I hadn't discussed any of this with my wife, Angela, but regardless, she went ahead and bought a raised bed for the backyard before I had a chance to even tell her about any of this. So we'll be one of the 30 as well. And she's not an expert, but she knows more than I do, and I think she's eager to learn some more. Nancy has told me, Nancy's a master gardener, in case you didn't know that.
In training, always.
Always in training. Well, that's the point I was about to make, right? Is that there's always more to learn no matter how adept you are at this. Reduce our local carbon output by limiting the need for widely transported store-bought produce, and strengthening our partnership with GardenWorks, who I talked about a little bit before. There'll be aspects of this project that will allow us to do some things with them, and also with bridge communities, incidentally, another one of our mission partners. So there's some cool ways that this can all kind of tie together. So before I move on, which I think, it's going to go to Nancy's piece here. The slides are out of order, but that's okay. Before I hand it over to Nancy, our goals for today are really to let you guys know what's going on. Get kind of a sign up from you if you're interested in being an ongoing part of the green team, which is really in and of it. Nancy's got like 4 sign-up sheets. Okay, they're not all high commitment. Some are, some aren't. The lowest commitment one is probably just, I'd like to kind of be a part of this, which means you'll get the emails and communications, et cetera, and kind of able to opt in into whatever projects interest you as they develop. A commitment to grow one of these 30 gardens, and again, I'm hoping it can be even more than that, but I'm trying to start off modest. My hope is that I can get, 10 or 15 before I even announce this on birthday. If you get 50 or more, I don't know, it'd be great. And then also signups for, one part of this that I forgot to mention is that we're also looking to plant what we're calling an ambassador garden here on the site. So at the church, so we don't have the room for a full-blown community garden, but we are going to have this 1 or 2 raised bed garden outside the chapel, which will kind of serve as a model, give a little visibility to what we're doing, also produce yields of its own. And we were thinking about maybe making that one kind of like a little library. So there'll be a sign up to folks want to kind of help maintain that garden. And then there's a 4th one, which is a build for Garden Works that Nancy's going to talk about. So any questions so far? Well, give it over to Nancy. Okay. It's all yours.
Sure.
Oh, one last thing. Melissa?
Paper passer.
Paper passer.
I went to teaching school for this.
Nancy and I put together, thank you. Right. That's why we got the teachers doing it. Nancy and I put together a rough timeline for what this might look like over the next few months. The gardening project. So please take a look at that when you're able, but after Nancy's done talking.
Okay, so to begin, I'm going to take you through to remind you what the Garden Works project is, does, who's in it, and then we'll talk about some ways that the goal of this was to find a way, with Garden Works being one of our ministries, to put that together with what we're doing with our church congregation and the community at large, right? So that's why I'll just talk about the Garden Works project and then talking about separate gardens. I'm going to try to pull all those together real quick after I kind of give you an overview. Here goes. That is what your vegetable garden is going to look like in about 3 months.
Oh, sorry, you're going backwards.
This way?
Yeah, that slide was on the other side.
Oh, okay. So you all can read, but I think it's important. I mean, the mission of the Garden Works project is very simple: to help people who are not do not have ready access to fresh produce, to help them get that either through a community garden that they're participating in, a home garden that they're participating in, or the food that we grow and other growers give to all the food pantries, right? Garden Works project has beds pretty much all over DuPage County. One of them that Seth had mentioned is the Bridge Communities one that we're going to have a team work on so that we can grow food there and get that to the food pantries as well. But our mission is pretty clear, and we are doing so much good work with it. I think with all of you helping us just exponentially, it's just going to become so much more important and will help sustain our communities here. Nope. Everyone deserves fresh produce. That's kind of our tagline. Our vision is a community nourished and empowered to grow and share food. Food insecurity and food inequity. 1 in 8 are considered food insecure within this region, the 62nd wealthiest county in the United States. So food equity is a genuine concern. And honestly, with what's kind of on the road with happening with the SNAP program, I truly believe that this is going to become even more vital to our communities and help people getting access to food that they so desperately need for their families. Who do we serve? Anyone who's considered food insecure, individuals relying on emergency food assistance. We work with such a beautiful across the board languages and cultures that come to us that we get to work with. 65 partnerships provide us with referrals for potential growers. And a grower could be a farm, could be community gardens who want to grow, could be you with your ambassador garden. So what do we grow? We have the home gardening. I want to explain something real quick about the home gardening, which is why I think our ambassador program is so important. It used to be when Garden Works first started out, that's what we did. We would plant 100 gardens around the area in people's backyards and get them up, set up the beds, give them the soil, give them the seedlings and the seeds, and help them be successful growers. It was very, very hard because a lot of people had never really grown or didn't know how to grow vegetables. And then they kind of lost interest in, the insect problem, the heat, the humidity, the bugs, all those things that come into the growing season was not totally appealing to everyone. Drought too is a big problem too, like in July and August here. So they didn't do very well. But once they signed up, they had 3 years of like a refresh. The first year was their first garden. The second year we would come in and we would do the soil again and we would give them new seedlings and check in on them. And the third year, the same thing. we stick to that unless they really just say, we're out. And hopefully after 3 years, they're really on their own and doing what all we'll be doing as ambassador garden growers. The community garden is where we go to, I'll use Bridge as an example. So Bridge has 5 beds behind their housing community that is behind the Jewel in Glen, Ellyn. And there's 5 raised beds there. And I'm going to be leading a team for the Garden Works project to help those residents grow food for their families and care for it. And actually, one thing I had mentioned, I'd like for us maybe late in the season to take a group of us over there to meet some of the residents if they're open for that, and just kind of, share in the gardening community experience together. And then there's something called the Food Growers Network, which for $25 through the Garden Works project, you can get access to free seeds, you get access to programs, you get some discounts on some things, and quite frankly, you're just a part of a really cool club. So for $25, it just goes to the bottom line for Garden Works Grant. You participate in that. Here's what someone who's growing a garden this might be their garden plan. We do the square gardening, the square foot gardening, so you can get as much produce grown in the smallest area as possible. That's the approach that they've been using and have pretty darn great success with it. You can see day 1 and then day 6 how quickly things can happen, and literally how exciting and gratifying that is to see it go from day 1 to the 6th week. And basically it is local support is the primary funding. So we rely on donors like you of food, and funding and money, and corporate sponsorships. We're always looking for corporate sponsors to help us provide grants to us as well. We apply for lots of grants, but we're really small, so sometimes we're a little limited in the grant money that we can get, but we're growing, so we hope to change that in the next few years. And then here's what Seth was referring to, the Fresh Food Connect. So Fresh Food Connect, there is actually, and I'll talk about this a little bit, but I'll tell you where to go on the website. And there's a little video that shows you the whole process of what's happening when you sign up with this app, where to get the app. So we'll talk about that in a second, but it's a great way to connect people who are growing food and want to get it to the people who need it most. You can always take it to your local food pantry, but if you're really looking for some kind of directed place to put it where there may be a shortage, Fresh Food Connect will connect your garden with those who need it most. So how to get involved, gardening skills, leadership, always looking for board members, there's office-related things. We always want to talk to other gardeners who either want to be or already are. And then here's our address and information to check us out. So I'm wondering, I want to show you guys a little bit about the website. Let me talk about it first for a sec. Because, try to do it. Yeah. So as Seth mentioned, there's 3 basic ways for us to get involved with this new Green Team initiative, right? So there's the Edens project, and we're going to put 2 raised beds, 4 by 8 by 8, outside by the chapel doors. And then we're going to also put in what they call a tabletop garden that's about this far off the ground, so that those who can't get on the ground will also have an opportunity to grow something. We're going to make it look nice and put it over there. And I actually had such the good fortune. There's someone by the name of Katie Miley, who's works at church here and lives kitty corner from these grounds. And she was a farmer and has such long and great experience at growing vegetables. So she's agreed to lead this garden with my support. Keep checking in on it. I think that garden will probably need about 8 people as a way to just kind of, so none of you are burdened by too much work in one summer. We'll kind of trade off, and she'd be in charge of helping run that group of volunteers. Let's see here. Yeah, and this is the food that Seth was mentioning could be for our own church, members and people here that may need food or just fun and fresh to eat. Just to, pick a tomato day. The other garden is the ambassador garden, and that's the other one that Seth was talking about. I want to offer an idea, and I want you to spread the word on this. Not everybody has a place in their yard that they can grow a garden. They don't have enough sun. They don't maybe have enough know-how or whatever. It just doesn't seem practical. And I'm going to offer out for other people, in case they don't mind, or I hope they don't mind. I think we could partner. I think there's ways that people who are growing and have garden space and sun could partner with those of us who don't, and kind of make it, and, you know, start building that community with our neighbors. So if you can think of someone that you know grows beautiful vegetables and talks about that, you might want to tap them on the shoulder and see if they'd like to do maybe some partnership with them. Anyone here who's a very big gardener, invite others to help you. I just think it's a great way to spread the love here and get as many people involved and not have it be determined by whether or not they've got enough sun in their yard, or actually have a balcony, and it's just not practical. I want everyone as much as possible to be able to participate, and I think that might be a really great community way to do that. I'm going to tell everyone to start small. Even if you're a seasoned gardener and you've got your stuff going, this growing a row, we call plant a row for people who need it. You know, start small and be successful. Maybe a great green bean patch, or like a really great tomato plant that's really producing something, or some peppers, something like that, where you can have success and will give you the best chance of participating and donating what you grow to a food pantry that needs it. And then the last one was the Bridge Community Garden. As I mentioned, I'm going to lead that. I need like 6 people to help me with that, volunteers. And honestly, it's like one day a month. There's supposed to be 2 of us that go at a time. That's kind of a little bit of the rule. So I will go those 6 times. We'll go to install it in May. Check in June, check in July, August, September, and October. And then at the end of October, we'd love a group of people that could come and break it all down and get it ready to put it to bed for the season. So that's the gardens. Now I'm going to go to the website. As I said, bear with me, we're undergoing a little bit of a change right now, but I think one of the most important places to go, mouse. Okay, this is under the Grow tab, and under the Grow tab, there is something I want to point out right away. You'll see that to the right of the screen is a place to kind of talk you through how to use the Fresh Food Connect app. And here's the thing, everyone. You're not going to be using this for a while, right? You're going to not be using this until like October. August, September, October. So just keep this in mind and keep asking questions. And you have to say, when am I supposed to do that again? Just ask me and I'll remind you what this is for and how you can connect in, because it's easy to forget that it's out there between now and then. Yeah, see, look, there's recipes for being healthy. There's a demo garden update in June. This would be something that you might find useful to kind of talk about what your garden should be looking like in the middle of June. It talks about weeding. It talks about harvesting. There's a whole thing these are quick videos too, very helpful. Tomato update, how you prune, what to look for. So a lot of really great information right there. The other place where there's some really wonderful information, that's what I was going to bring, but I think you all can go and look at this on your own here, is under the Grow. It says publications. And in the publications area, just stop right there. Under that same tab where it says publications, there's 2 good PDFs you might want to check out. One is growing a given garden, right? So we can use this as we're thinking about growing our ambassador garden. And the other one is the Gardeners Project Early Vegetable Sowing Guide. So if you're kind of getting excited about doing this, you might find some good tips in this quick short video that tells you how to get started for the year. Okay, that's all that. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Now I'm going to do a little. Do you have a question?
I just wonder, is there a list of things that are needed? I mean, I saw kale, and I assume it's mostly leafy greens. I mean, is there going to be
Nobody wants kale. They get so much kale in the food pantries.
Okay.
They're like, no,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. You don't want to grow what's not.
Well, you know what? That's the thing that the Fresh Food Connect will do. Okay. It'll tell you like what is kind of missing where, what they could use more of, and then help you direct it there. I do think, though, as someone who's been in a bunch of the Master Gardener growing gardens, you know, green beans are a hit always, and something that you can keep going, succession planning throughout the season. So that's a really nice thing to do. Cucumbers, you know, the zucchini, which is like famous now for how much people grow of it. I can't even grow zucchini, so I'm jealous of all the people that grow. There's a ton of sun. I'm not good at that. But yeah, so it'll help you direct it to the right place. So here's my other thing I want to tell you all. So coming up in the first week of May is what is called Giving to Page Days. And every 501c everywhere around here is going to participate in this to raise money. It's one of our 2 fundraisers. We're trying to raise $15,000 because we have a lot of work to do, and that would be huge to our bottom line. So I'll have a page and a little information about me, and I'll put it on Facebook and I'll put it on Instagram. And everyone on this mailing list will be really lucky to get that email from me with the link also. And I'm going to put signs up in the gardens as well. You also can put signs up. I have yard signs if you're interested. You can get some to put in your garden. Keep it up kind of healthy if you'd like to. Or you and your family could also sponsor a page and do your own fundraising. It's kind of fun, actually. I'm not saying it's super fun, but it's pretty fun. And it does raise some money. I mean, one of our board members, she had just joined us, and last year she, on her own, raised like $2,500 just in 5 days. So it can be done. And so if you don't want to do it, maybe you'll donate through my link. Just think about it. I mean, $5 is even, I'll take anything. I'm thrilled to have $1 going to this Giving to Page campaign. And then the last thing I want to mention is that there's a seedling sale coming up. You all can buy seedlings for your own yards. And I was trying to find the link, and that was the link that blew up over this transition. They're going to get it back up and running for me, they think, by the end of the day. And I can send that an email, or we can post that, Catherine, the seedling sale. And that pickup is May 20th. So, and then last but not least, sign up sheet. And feel free to sign other people up if they're not here. You know that they're going to want to do this. But that's pretty much all I have. So any questions?
Just one thought, and I am a big gardener, and my whole baby know is full of plants I've seeded already. The one reason I grow my own garden, I don't like going to the garden store and get everything in the plastic containers. So I grow it all from seed and started in March. It's just something to consider, just because I hate plastic.
So what do you say?
In the future, like that we could, maybe a part of the project, an extension being seeding our plants.
Absolutely.
Like starting in March, rather than all that plastic.
Absolutely. I actually, it's funny you say that. Today, between here and the walk and the end of the day, I've got to get all my students going in my basement at Glen, so I'm going to be doing that. But I don't know why we couldn't do that next year, right? Yeah. And it's studying seeds from your own too. You can also use the peat pots, and there's all sorts of things that you can do to do more environmentally.
I was wondering how it might involve people that live in apartments who don't have a property. Like, what would that look like, or how would like our church do?
So the Garden Works project actually has provided what they call those grow boxes. 2 of those for people in balconies. Again, we're doing it kind of less and less because it's first of all it's very expensive, and then if it doesn't work, it's not probably a good use of our resources. But we could help people get those grow boxes, and honestly, they sell them at Home Depot. They sell them pretty much anywhere that you could buy gardening supplies. And if they can fit it on their balcony, and their balcony can hold the weight of this container with the soil and the water, it's a great way to do it if they have some good sun, particularly west and south. East sun tends to not be quite as reliable, depending on how it's sited. But yeah, for sure.
Well, they can help with those gardens by the rich community.
Yes, exactly. They can work on other gardens too. Thank you, Nancy. I want to, Tom Rausch here is going to talk, we're going to shift gears a little bit. And Tom's been working on some stuff with the property committee in regards to our building and things that we can, I already talked a little bit about things we've done, but more that we can do to make our building more sustainable and resilient. And Tom's the sort of like scientific brains of the operation here. And gets a lot of the technical aspects. So he's been working on that, and
I'll be brief.
share some of what he's learned and what he's been working on.
My head's in the clouds.
No, it's fine.
Not the clouds. And I want to agree with Seth that we have our climate is really challenging us, challenging the planet. But I've got good news: Earth will survive just fine. It's the species that are going to have a lot of problems. So, I'm a member of Citizens Climate Lobbies on the bottom. And some of you here are also members. Several of you are, and we're kind of one of the more effective groups that lobby Congress directly because we're all volunteers. We have paid staff, but they don't ask for money that often. And this is one of 4 missions that's going on in Citizens Climate Lobby, so I'm big on this. This fall, I'm hoping with Seth to kick off kind of discussion on this from a personal standpoint, people's homes. Apartments. What's the future going to look like? What you can do now? What's coming up? If our planet's going to survive, and if we're going to get anywhere, and I've been studying this probably half time for 5 years now. And I'm involved with groups of people that are very, very smart. I don't have to learn myself. I learn from them. We either do this, we keep our air clean and the planet the way it is. We don't, then we're missing out on a big chunk of it, and it's actually going to be important financially at some point. There's 10 solutions to climate change: coal plants, clean energy efficiency, buildings. That's what we're going to talk about in a minute. Do what we can with cement, steel, plastics. Ideally, get rid of plastics, except for ones that are done green fashion and they have a full recycling to them. Let EVs, biking, etc., decarbonize wherever we can, stop deforestation, restore farming, degraded lands, reduce food loss and waste. It's right up Nancy's alley here, and eat more plants, less meat. This came from the latest climate change report that's been going on for many, many years. This is called cycle number 6, and this fall I'd like to talk more about that. Right now, did you consider all the electricity going into the buildings, such as us here and at home? It's almost a third greenhouse gas emissions in the country are from the buildings. Directly heating in the buildings is about 10-11%. So most places in Illinois heat with natural gas. We aren't big on oil and propane. If you go in the rural areas in the Northeast, that's all they've got. They don't have gas pipelines. Vermont, New Hampshire, out in areas where people live, or in central Wisconsin. From what I've learned by being heavily involved in this, and including members of Congress, we're going to electrify. It's happening. And natural gas is going to become more and more expensive. Right now, it's not. I'm shocked at the variability in natural gas. Anybody give me an estimate of the ratio of the low to the high over the last 2 years? Just guess.
Price?
The price of natural gas per therm. 5 to 1. Almost 5 to 1. Yeah. So if you go back a couple of years before the situation in Ukraine, we were getting down to almost 25, 30 cents a therm. Therm being the major thing we use to measure. Our house used. We have a fairly large 2,800 square foot house. Half of it built 100 years ago. We used about a little less than 1,000 therms, so that's $300 for all of our natural gas at the low end, or at the high end, 5 times that, $1,500. If we do climate change the way half of Congress wants to do it, we're going to be hiking this price. That's the only way to do it equitably, is just gradually make pollution more expensive and make the clean stuff cheaper. Right now, we're doing the other end of the equation. We're making everything cheap. We're making renewables as cheap as possible by supporting the heck out of them through taxes, tax rebates. And good news, the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, that doesn't reduce inflation very much, it does reduce greenhouse gases a lot by the carrot side of the stick. Behind on this one. The individual homeowners are getting about $2,000 to put in heat pumps. We'll be talking about this fall. Things go the way I'd like them to. And nonprofits and commercial buildings can get very high percentages of, I think, up to 30% of things like solar or battery storage. Huge amount, literally paid up front by the contractors doing it. So if you're talking about millions of dollars of a project, you're talking about millions of dollars of savings, but it's still expensive. So what Seth and I talked about, I talked with Tim Water, who's the chair of Property and Grounds. We really need a team under Property and Grounds. We're talking about multi-year project. We need to imagine the possibilities. Right now, we have a beautiful hot water heating system all over the building, and I suspect we can't do something simple as turn off one room at a time for 5 days and turn it on when it's used, or if there's a meeting on Thursday night. Have somebody like me or Wojciech say, okay, this room has to be heated, so I'll turn it on this afternoon. That way, my guess is 20-30% right away. Something that simple, but of course it's not simple to implement because we've got valves everywhere. Heat pumps, I'm becoming an expert on that. I'm driving my wife crazy because our furnace just quit 8 days ago. I don't want to replace the furnace. I have no choice. I'm putting in a 97% efficient. Can't get any better than that. We already get an email every month saying how much we use compared to house our side, and we're setting the standard. So in other words, it gets cold at night in our house. We like to sleep, and it takes 2-3 hours for the house to warm up to 70 degrees because we turn it down so low at night. Low. Heat pumps in our area, you'll see a lot of misinformation, good and bad. I will talk about it this fall. It's not a simple decision, and it's not cheap. I just got a quote for new furnace and heat pump that work in combination with each other. Heat pumps also do air conditioning. Is $19,000 for the small one in our house, and we have two because our house was built in 1920, 1950, and 1990 by us. So we have two units. We have very good heating bills, but it's not cheap, and it doesn't pay for itself. And it has at some point it will dramatically. But here's the other types of things we can do in church. We can help insulate the windows very cheaply, beyond what they are, without destroying stained glass. We can do more insulation, maybe better use of ceiling fans. We use experts. We have people here who know what to do. And what does the road look like? This is what I would call an ideal road, and here we are. We want the green team, the city Property Grounds. Assessments, benchmarking, audits, these things can be $5,000 to $10,000 if done right. When they tell you what your payback is, they'd have to be doing things like using special tools to measure insulation, getting up on scaffolds in the church roof. It's something we're going to have to take some time and implement. We'll pick up this fall. And I think this road leading to solar panels is crazy. It's going to look more like a spaghetti going everywhere. There's so many different things we could do. In the ideal world, especially if we had a lot of real estate, we put our own solar panels in. My dream would be the parking lot covered in a half green with the vines and the other half being solar panels as a canopy over the entire parking lot. I suspect that size could actually put us off the grid. But I also suspect that size the cost of that would be spectacular. The payback would probably be there, so that's something we need. It's beyond my expertise. Other two to tell you what that would cost. But that's what more rural churches are doing. They're going all in on solar, and there's a lot of examples of that. There's examples of inner cities and low-income areas get spectacular federal assistance. We will get unspectacular federal assistance, other than the 30%. We do not live in that.
The other thing I would add, I think, is my dream anyway, and I think we share this, is that it's also not just about being more efficient or reducing our footprint, but also being able to provide heat and air conditioning and that kind of thing in a way that's less dependent on the grid. I just got someone just shared, a friend of mine just shared an article with me this morning about how blackouts and whatnot are becoming more frequent and common in the States, and how that's only going to get worse. And in extreme temperatures, one way or the other, it'd be a good thing to be able to provide for the community, especially the homeless and whatnot.
That's up
Cooling and warming.
That's in my wheelhouse. I'm a pesky blogger with some very influential people inside Citizens Climate Lobby talking about realities of going green, which includes nuclear power. I'm not going to get into that here, but you cannot expect to heat something north of Mason-Dixon line with solar power when you only get a quarter of your panel output in January. That means you're talking about storing amounts of energy that the cost of which far exceeds the cost of the solar panels. However, this energy storage thing, I'm very optimistic about that. We have a big facility here. There are the companies that are supplying our solar footprint right now. The company is called Nexan, that they have down in the field. Debbie and I also use Nexan. Ours is in DeKalb. I forget where the church is. It's just a different county. But they're also looking into providing massive batteries at facilities sized like ours to arbitrage or make money by storing energy when it's cheap at night or during the sun's shining heavily in a solar area, which, by the way, we aren't. We're a 1-2% solar area. We're 10-11% wind, 50 to 55%. So storing it at night when the price is really low, selling it using a lot of software during the day when the prices reach triple, quadruple, quintuple, and arbitraging it, and keeping a level up in there that when power goes out, it's ours. And all the cost of that might be certain. But we have to get in and we have to be willing to obviously put some resources on our end. They probably wouldn't be happy paying for $50,000 electrical panel. But that's all things we need to look at. So that's doable. That's exciting. I agree. So. Any questions? We haven't even met.
Yeah.
I keep hearing your name.
Yeah, I'm Mike Sorensen. I'll be taking over from Tim on the property grounds committee as chair. I am 1,000,000% on board.
Oh, fantastic. I'd like to hug
At
you.
my house, we can talk for 1,000,000 hours about what I'm doing to my house.
Yeah.
It's all these things that we're talking about here. Hopefully, comes at a very high cost, but it's worth it.
There's paybacks.
I did want to share one thing, because
Sure.
this is my pet project, especially on gas. That stove in there has 10 pilot lights at 600 BTU
Oh my God.
per hour,
There you go.
which generates over 6 million BTU per year per pilot light.
You have the therms on that? I can't do it in my head.
It's about 550 to 600 therms
Per year?
per year.
Yeah.
Needing
And, And that's at 500 to 600?
Yeah, so it'll
Okay, that's
probably be
only $600 bucks.
600 bucks. So I get that it's not a big thing, but
It is a big thing.
I worry about the air quality in the kitchen.
Yes.
And the fan's not running.
Another hug.
Yeah. And I looked into it for the church. It's extremely expensive to update that stove into a clicky kind of gas on, gas off. It's very difficult to turn the pilot lights on and off.
Do one at a time and put induction or electric?
Electric would be super. So we have an opportunity now. I think the stove works fine, but it's a little pet project of mine. If I can raise money on my own to support this through the church, I would love to look at
It's
options.
fantastic. Air quality, the latest number, I probably spend 2-3 hours a day reading about exactly these type of things. It's in the 10 to 25% range of all childhood asthma cases are due to indoor combustion natural gas.
And I even did a test on my house. I have negative pressure in my kitchen. I went down to my gas boiler downstairs for air, and it's just pulling gas right out of the flue. So, these are awful things that you suddenly, when you're testing things, you're seeing them. I also have a great thermal camera, so if you ever want to walk the church with that
Awesome.
would,
that's the kind of
expose a
stuff
lot.
that's the kind of stuff that a true building sleuth would do. The problem is you and I would learn from it. You sound like a technical guy too, and but you need somebody to turn that into reality.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and Fantastic. What timing?
Yeah.
My timing.
The roofing on the church is a very big project coming up in the next year or two.
I did work with Tim on that.
Okay,
See
yeah.
if there's anything we can do insulation
Yeah,
wise
for sure.
before we roof it. And the answer is yes, at about a third of the cost of the roofing itself, and no payback, because the insulation design on top of the deck is for ice dams and for super hot climates. We don't have to. It'd be $100-some thousand.
Yeah, it's over $100,000. And if you're not gonna do the rest of the church, it's gonna
Well,
find its way out.
but you can do stuff from the inside.
Yeah, for sure.
But you can also do small things, right? Like I always tell people, like, yes, you want X amounts of inches of foam, but just basic thermal break,
Right.
It's like night and day and sealing off the lines. And,
Yep.
you know, simple things like HRVs. You know, we're throwing all this hot air out of the roof line. We're not converting it.
Yep.
Right?
No,
So all that can be done.
Yeah, I took a tour of the boiler room too, and I'm like, holy cow. You got a giant fan that opens and pushes, throws cold air down there because the things are just running hot. It's like, whoa. And there's heat pumps you can preheat with.
I was gonna say, I would add another dream, is not just doing so in our church, but seeing our members and nations take it outside our church.
Well, that's why I want to start this fall. And I've got ready presentation decks. The Climate Lobby's been working on that since the Inflation Reduction Act passed in October. And it gets very technical very quick, and it's hard. I watched a Citizens Utility Board video a couple times ago, almost ready to write them, chew them out, talking about how much money you save on heat pumps. Well, one of the slides had saving more money with insulated heat pump than my entire gas bill. All right, that doesn't help when there's hyperbole in there. You got to be honest. Yeah, this fall I want to get into that. If it takes small group sessions, big group sessions, how many it takes, I'm in. And I'm up on that stuff. And I've been working on my house like Mike, like yourself. The first edition we built 2 stories, solar kind of windows, low emissivity, all facing for solar heat. Our house heats itself when the sun comes up. Even though we built it in 1990, our addition does. But the rest of it doesn't.
Tom?
Yeah.
Don Bartel, who's on our
yes.
Our Zoom call, had a couple questions. The first one is, have we or will we pursue LEED certification?
Yeah, that's further down the list. If you can do full certification, you can actually get federal rebate money. You'd have to start way early on. You'd have to do all this to say we could do it, and then you'd have to budget for it. We're talking in the 5 to 10 year plan on that. But yeah, if we could do it, this low energy efficiency, I forget what the acronym is, but yeah, there's actual standards that I'm not that familiar with that you have to meet. DOE's been involved in making them, and if you can meet them, great. More power to you, less power from the grid.
And then he had a second question. Yes. Has there been consideration for a power purchase agreement for solar parking lot?
No, we have, I think only a few people have heard me talk about such a dream. That the first step would probably, for a solar parking lot, would probably be village zoning. Is it even realistic? It can be done clearly it can be done engineering wise without impacting our footprint for parking. Clearly it could be done. Would our neighbors agree? And would the village agree? I doubt it. Although there's a lot of pressure, Go Green, Glen, Ellyn, my friends, to make the village get off its stuff a little more on electrification and this same type of thing. And that all comes in zoning.
Yeah.
And the state of Illinois on zoning is fantastic. They just passed a law saying counties and municipalities cannot pass zoning restrictions more restrictive than the states.
What would be the objection of the neighbors to
Big shadow.
big shadow?
Yeah, pole right on the property line. We could put it. Otherwise, we have to put it between parking spots.
Okay.
We need to cover everything we could at that part of the parking lot. Obviously, not in the shadow of the building. but it's big. We got the space.
And we, putting panels on the roof is not practical.
Not this trip, not this roof. Yeah, the other roofs that are east and west, it's not ideal, but yeah, we could do it on the chapel. But that's to power. There's a thing I just sent out on email coming from the Willowbrook Wildlife Refuge. There's the opportunity to take a tour there and a meeting on that. You saw me send that out. And that came from Janine, our own Janine, and you get an idea of their facility is a little smaller than ours. Get an idea of the budget and the size of what they're doing to go up to be 100% public rated. And it's a lot. It's a lot of money.
Thank you.
Thanks, Seth.
Thank you, Tom. We'd love for you all to be a part of these things we're working on. I know there's kind of a lot of information today, but if you'd like to be part of the Eden Project and grow a garden, we'll have a sign up for that. We're going to do a digital sign up after I kind of announce this to the whole congregation too. But again, I'd love to get some commitments before we go to that point. Nancy, where are the sign up sheets?
I have them.
Could you just maybe put them out on that table there?
It's only really one
Oh,
that
one
has
side.
all
Great.
of our
Got all
projects
one.
into it, consolidated.
So that'll be over there.
Just keep it there.
And we want to continue to work on things like composting and recycling, do a little better job of that. Like I said, the compost kit's not here anymore. We're going to continue to do the nature hikes and host meetings on various topics and try to engage with other, partners in all that we're doing. So it's kind of an open-ended idea at this point, but we do have a few concrete things that you can participate in. So the Eden Project's probably the most concrete kind of immediately. And then, Tom's going to do some stuff in the fall, educating folks about some of these things he's just been talking about, sustainable buildings and all that. I think that brings us to a close. Does anyone have any final questions or comments?
I had one idea. I was wondering if
Yeah.
you could also have like a program with the prayer before. Like they come
Yes.
here telling about, their startup.
I think there's some potential there, definitely. I haven't followed it too closely, but I hear that it's greenlit at this point, right? I think they've got,
Yes, they have a place, yeah.
they've got a place, they've got the funds they need. So
It seems like it, yeah. I couldn't go yesterday because they had another program in the memorial service.
And we're also, I'm going to say 10 words about this, but some of you may know we're also working on a potential business plan also to sell some eco-friendly products, that kind of thing, to help our bottom line. And that's the kind of thing that could tie in really well with the co-op. That could be a place to do some business with. Lots going on. Thank you for your concerns and your care and for showing up today. And for always, you have shown up for a long time and will continue to do so. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day. You don't have much time to get to the hike. So it's a lunch.
Thank you.
Oh, and I also just want to say a thank you, by the way, to Catherine, who, was not on the front line of the presentation, but has done a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes.
Oh, my favorite part.
So grateful.
Don and Amy.
Thanks so much.
Bye, thanks. Let me know if you can't get any of those links and I'll send them out again.
They all worked, and I was able to download the app, and I just sent you and Seth an email about investment possibilities. So,
oh, good.
Good thing that we have found. So anyway, but
wonderful. Well, thank you. Good to see you both. Bye.